And now back to the Tim Ridley Show.
Before we go, and welcome back to the last half hour of the Tim Ridley Show on Sirius XM 146. It is time for us to talk with our friend Hope Zvara. And she has a lot going on lately. Well, always, but especially lately. And we're going to find out more about that. Hope, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Tim. Great to be on again.
Yeah, great to have you on as always. And you are a very busy lady. And I want to, first of all, thank you for all that you do for the trucking community in terms of helping our drivers, our listeners get to better help us to stretch and to know that, you know, a lot of us have, including myself included, you know, you have apprehensions about yoga, but you break it down and bring it to us in an elementary way, which means that no matter how stiff you may be or how, you know, non-flexible you may be, but you help us to get to the point where we do have better flexibility. So let's start off by talking about some of the things that's going on in your life now to make our lives better.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember the last time that I was on. I think it was with Julie, maybe this past summer. But I just love my drivers. I love seeing the lights go on when they see that health really can be on their terms. It's not a choice, my health, my fitness, or trucking, which I think a lot of drivers feel like they have to choose. And this past year, I came out with a book called Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. And it's just that. It's a simple toolbox or a simple guide for drivers. I mean, really anybody, but specifically for drivers, helping them see that whether it's yoga or whatever your idea of fitness and health and kind of taking back your life again looks like, I really wanted to break things down into the simplest of terms so that drivers can feel empowered that their health is accessible and that they don't have to choose, and that we can hopefully help create a more thriving industry with less turnover. So I think there's a lot of upsides to health and fitness and not a lot of downsides. And I just wanted to make that accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and that you did. So let's talk more about that book, because that's very exciting, you know, and then we'll talk about how our listeners can get a hold of that book as well. But one of the things is that you wanted to get deeper into it to help our listeners, and that's why, you know, one of the many reasons you came out with this book here. So talking more about the book, was it I know anytime you're writing, there's so much on your mind that you want to get out there. So was that difficult at first, or did you pretty much have everything in line that you wanted to put in that book?
Well, after working with drivers for, I think, right around 3 years, it became really clear that, you know, if they want access to push-ups and sit-ups and running 5Ks and all that other stuff, you know, there's a lot of people out there that can help them do that. And they will definitely find someone that can meet those needs. And so after working with drivers, it became really clear that what they really needed wasn't fitness. What they really needed was better tools for just how to live optimally every single day. And so the whole premise of this book is foundation. So how is your posture today? Does your back hurt when you sit all day? What are your feet like when you walk? You know, how do you spend, you know, downtime inside your truck? And how can we fix that? And how can we change that? And instead of removing yourself from your everyday life, and what I mean by that, when you're trying to work out or have the intention to, is, you know, you wake up in the morning, however early. Tim, you wake up really early. You wake up earlier than I do. But on your mind is, I'm going to work out. And at 5:30 p.m., I'm going to work out. And so all day long, you keep telling yourself at 5:30. And so up until 5:30, you've done nothing because you keep telling yourself that. And then 5:30 rolls around and you're tired, and Netflix has your favorite show back on finally after like how long, and you just don't want to. And then you don't. And so then all day long, you did nothing because you were put fitness in a box. And I want to unbox that, especially for drivers, and show them how, you know, one move in the morning to stretch your hips in your sleeper is yoga, is movement. Something you're doing while you're filling up with fuel that looks like you're tying your shoes, that's yoga, that counts, that's movement. Things that you're doing in your driver's seat, like rolling your wrists, rolling your shoulders, might seem mundane and silly, or reaching up overhead, but those are the very things that are going to keep you, aging healthy for years to come. And you can't get out of the chair as a truck driver, but you can move more in it. And that's going to make a big difference too.
I like the way you put that. You can move more while in it. And I think that's one of the, again, as you piggybacking on what you were saying too, is one of the biggest problems is because, we postpone or put things off and procrastinate because you've done nothing all day. And then by the time it's the end of the day, you still hadn't done anything. And then you say, well, I'll start tomorrow. I'm tired right now. I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never gets here.
Absolutely. And I think for myself included, or really anyone, so many of us sit in our society and our culture and the way things are set up nowadays, but drivers have, kind of one more thing on their plate because they can't just get up and walk to the bathroom, or just get up and, act like they need something from somebody else's cubicle. Like, drivers are stuck. They can't get up and move around. And so we need to bring movement to them. And up until this point, nobody has. And I just want not just drivers, but everyone to see that if you want to move in your 80s, you best start moving now. Our body isn't a use when I want, it's a use it or lose it. And the good news is even if you've lost it, like a little shoulder mobility, or your hips are stiff, or your feet, you shuffle when you walk, you can get that back. It just takes a little longer, but the body wants to move. We are designed to move. And that movement, again, is not exclusive to exercise.
I have an email that came through, but I'll get this to you now, and we'll take a break, and you can answer it on the other side, Hope. He says he hasn't stretched in probably 20 or 25 years. He wants to know how hard is it to get back to stretching, and also how long will it take to get some flexibility. And he goes on to say a little bit later on in the email, right now I'm in chronic pain and I don't have any flexibility at all. So we'll get that answer on the other side of these messages. Hope Zvara is with us, and we'll be back on the other side of these messages. This is Tim Ridley on Sirius XM. Hope Zvara is with us. This is Tim Ridley. We're discussing her new book, yoga, trucker yoga, Mother Trucker Yoga. Let me start all over. She is with Mother Trucker Yoga, and she's discussing her new book, Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. Hope you want to address that email that I put out to you before the break.
Absolutely. And so this is something I hear a lot from drivers: chronic pain, chronic stiffness, and there's a fear around that. I mean, whether they voice it or not, because there's nothing that makes you feel older than being stiff. And specifically to chronic pain, especially when we're looking in the lower back area, that sitting is, I would even go 90% of the culprit. And especially sitting with no movement the second your butt hits that driver's seat. And so we want to look at a couple of things. One, when we're not moving, our joints, our body, things like inflammation, that's a word that I think we all hear now in the health world. And inflammation really happens in our body for a lot of reasons, but when specifically to movement, lack of movement equals inflammation. And so we want to get those body parts moving again to help get that inflammation out of there and help get more blood flow. But there's a term in the yoga world called fuzz, and specifically melting the fuzz. And so every single morning when we wake up, we have this tissue in our body called fascia. And when we sleep at night, that fascia develops a fuzz. So think about just like a little fuzz on top of your sweater, or maybe think of it like the frost for the first time on the grass when it starts getting colder. And if you don't move that next morning, that fuzz doesn't melt. It's like butter. And if you don't move every single morning for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, that fuzz gets a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger buildup. And before you know it, that buildup is so rigid that your body feels older than it should. And so simple things for the gentleman that emailed in, and this is something for everybody, every time you wake up in the morning, do simple things like lay on your back with your knees bent, feet flat on the bed, and windshield wiper your knees side to side. That's going to stretch out your lower back. It's going to feel stiff. It's going to feel like it hurts, but it only feels that way because those body parts haven't been moved. And then when you sit up, reach your arms up overhead, interlace your fingers and push your palms to the sky. You might not be able to get them all the way up, but you got to start now. Then reach back behind and grab a sock or grab back of your shirt and roll your shoulders open. And then when you stand up, bend your knees generously and hinge forward from the hips. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but that's because you haven't been doing it. And you might be thinking to yourself, Hope, those are so basic. But that's the point. You're not doing these very basic things that our body and life require us to do on a daily basis. If standing on your head was going to solve the problem, if running a 5K was going to solve the problem, it would. But last time I checked, as we age, the number one thing that keeps us from living life vibrantly is mobility. And that is something that I want to help drivers with. So email, gentlemen, I hope that these things help. But again, you got to start right where you're at. And I think those are movements we all should be doing.
There's still hope. I think sometimes people feel like there is no hope because it's been so long and it's too late. But you just clarified that it's not too late. As long as you're still breathing, it's not too late. Right?
You got it. You got it.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your podcast. I mean, that's another thing that you've been doing to help people. So let's get into that, Hope.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I started a podcast called The Daily Dose of Hope. And my intention with that was just to bring more of a casual conversation around health and fitness and wellness, and just make it fun for drivers and bring a little inspiration and a little dose of hope. That's just kind of always been my nature. Is I'm a little bit more of an aspirational person. I'm a recovering addict and I've had a lot of hardships in my life. And so I've just had to kind of train myself to think with a much more upbeat perspective despite obstacles. And I just think we all can use a little dose of hope, pun intended, in our lives, now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. We all can. And as far as the podcast, are they different? I mean, I know that there are series or series and things that you're talking about on different podcasts, but how can, for someone, in other words, who is not really that familiar with podcasts and how to find you, how do they do that? How do they go about doing that?
Sure thing. If you're not super familiar with podcasts, that's kind of a different new arena for you. The easiest way is you can go to my website, and I have a tab on my website, mothertruckeryoga.com. And there is a tab for podcasts, and you can reach any of the videos there the audios there. We have all audio files on our site. I think we're at about maybe 65, something like that. Or you can go to Stitcher or iTunes, like all your usual iHeartRadio, all your usual ones, and find it there. So whatever's easiest for you, but we'd love you to take a listen. It's nothing super stuffy or super intense. I struggled when I first stepped into the yoga world 20 years ago. And I felt like the anatomy part was in French. And I just was like, this is not making sense to me. Like, I get these moves and I'll memorize them, but I don't understand. And I think that's the majority of people in the fitness world, but also ones trying to become more fit, is the language that they're using just doesn't make sense. And I wanted to change that as a teacher, and I want to change that now for drivers as well.
That's great. We have a few minutes left. I want to get to this as well. This month's blog, because you blog as well, and you have on here 3 driver exercises to do anywhere as an OTR trucker. So let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, for those of you that didn't know, I have a blog, and I put out a new blog. I write everything myself, about every 2 weeks or so. So you get at least 2 to 3 blogs a month. And yeah, I just recently wrote a blog, just trying again to show drivers simple things that they can do. Things like reaching high and squatting low. And if you have elderly parents or grandparents or anything like that, you know that as they age, what do we do to try to protect them or help them? We take things out of the high counters and we take things out of the low cabinets. But squatting is an essential movement we all need to do to age healthy. And so try to sneak a little bit more squatting into your day. Again, it might not be pretty. It might feel a little, but you're doing it and your body needs it. And then reach up overhead. Oh my gosh, that feels so good. And with mental health, a huge issue, reaching up overhead increases oxygen and deepens breathing. It increases blood flow. It increases, all the good endorphins to the brain simply by reaching up overhead and stretching. So I would call that an essential movement. And so find those spaces in the day where you can add that in. And then we have moves for core. So I know strengthening your core is a big concern for people, and I call it core marching, Tim, and it's super simple. So if you're sitting, all you need to do is sit up nice and straight. If you're in the driver's seat, take your back off the seat and just try lifting one thigh up off the ground, like just a little, or up off the seat, just a little bit. And you should feel your core muscles kick in. Like that's core work. It's that simple. And what if you did that throughout the day? And then my last one on there is a fun one, is just taking a water jug or a water bottle or a duffel bag of tools that you can lift and just stand up nice and tall and just bicep curl. Or bring the water jug up overhead or lunge with it. Move with what you have. Let's stop thinking that exercise and fitness has to have special clothes, special tools, special equipment, and a special location. And the more we alienate health and fitness that way, the less accessible it becomes to us.
Absolutely. And I love the way you break everything down to us as well, where it makes us realize that we basically do not have an excuse. you take all of that away. Hope, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you, listeners.
All right. Have a great week. And it's been a great fellowship meeting with. Have a great day, Hope.
Hey.